The Top 5 Star Trek Movies. Over the course of 40 years, the Star Trek franchise has spawned 13 feature films, with at least 3 more in the works at Paramount. The Trek movies are special for both casual viewers and diehard Trek fans.
To be or not to be.
Owing to the fact that the bigger life-and-death encounters for the crew of the USS Enterprise were frequently saved for the big screen. That isn't to say the series hasn't had its share of highs and lows in terms of quality over the years. The highs have been incredible, but the lows might be humiliating. So we're going to look at the brighter side of Star Trek movies and show you the top 5 Trek films. A word of caution, there are big spoilers for all of these films here. So if you're still unaware of the Trek canon's key fatalities, proceed with caution. Let's begin with number 5 and work our way to the best Star Trek movie. Number 5. Star Trek First Contact. Star Trek First Contact is a strange film. It's the first time the Next Generation crew is truly on their own, and they're relying on the Borg, one of the most powerful components in Star Trek fiction. It's a good setup, and it rewards those who have seen the Next Generation series while not being too obscure to alienate those who haven't. Even yet, it's not quite Star Trek. It isn't a film about anything in particular. Whatever you think of Generations, Insurrection, and Nemesis, at the very least, they're about something. Legacy, duty, and destiny, respectively. First Contact is an action horror picture.
Destroy them.
Which isn't something you'd expect from a Star Trek film. But director Jonathan Frakes manages to make it work in the setting of a new genre. Number 4. Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. This is the point on the list that Star Trek begins to feel like Star Trek. One of the original series' greatest achievements was to present stories that reflected real-world issues. The Undiscovered Country is the only Star Trek film that accurately depicts real-world events. Because the Klingon Empire is going to go bankrupt, the script cleverly draws a comparison to the end of the Cold War, with the upcoming peace pact between the Federation and the Klingons. It's also a plot that's anchored in previous films, as Kirk struggles to make peace with the individuals he holds responsible for his son's death.
So, wanted to meet you, Captain. One warrior to another.
It's a topic that hasn't been addressed since the Voyage Home, but instead of leaving the issue vague, it adds personal stakes. It also makes Kirk's journey in the Undiscovered Country a personal one, as he must learn the value of not only forgiveness, but also embracing a new status quo in which the Klingons and the Federation may coexist together.
Incoming.
Undiscovered Country also provides entertainment for practically everyone. While everyone else, save Sulu, who gets the short end of the stick in this film despite finally becoming a captain, is busy playing detective up on the Enterprise. Kirk, William Shatner, and Bones, DeForest Kelley, are on the trial on Kronos and are part of a jailbreak. While the picture pushes a little too hard to transform Chang or Christopher Plummer into the next Khan, the climactic battle sees Chang screaming like he needs to get his Shakespeare quote-a-day calendar out of his system, it's still a fun dynamic that seems like a Star Trek narrative at its core. Number 3. Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. There's a joke that every even-numbered Star Trek episode is good, and every odd-numbered Star Trek episode is horrible. That's a claim that shouldn't be tossed out the window with Star Trek III, a picture whose biggest issue is that it's based on the legendary Wrath of Khan. This is a film that does nothing wrong, builds on what has come before, and puts the Enterprise's crew's camaraderie to the test.
Sir, Commander Starfleet on emergency channel. He orders you to surrender this vessel.
At first look, a film dedicated to erasing Spock's sacrifice may be an ill-conceived concept, But director Leonard Nimoy makes it work by focusing on how the Enterprise crew works together outside of Starfleet. It transforms them into a fleeing crew, and they must give up all to save their fallen crewmen. That's a fantastic narrative, and one that belongs on Star Trek. It also has a Star Trek flavor to it without being a full-fledged Star Trek episode. While other great Star Trek movies would repeat what the series did best, traveling to unusual locations, creating parables for real-world conflicts, or recreating the feel of naval battles, Search for Spock is unique in that it builds on Wrath of Khan by putting the Enterprise's crew against their Starfleet obligations and plunging them into uncharted territory. Kirk also has to make the ultimate sacrifice when his kid is killed by the Klingons. It's beyond me how anyone could consider Search for Spock to be a lesser Trek episode. Number 2. Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. From beginning to end, this film is pure joy. It must have been tempting to do something similar again. Send Kirk and the crew on an interstellar journey to combat some intergalactic foe with a potentially lethal weapon on the line. Rather, they travel through time to save the whales. It's a ridiculous plotline that shouldn't work, but it does. On a lesser scale, this could have been an episode of the original series, yet it retains its appeal and successfully translates it to the big screen. The Enterprise crew as fish out of water is always funny in Voyage Home, which nearly plays like a sci-fi comedy, a dispiriting rare mix. The crew of the original series was frequently cast as outsiders, and the Voyage Home harkens back to that atmosphere while yet providing the audience with the comfort of being more familiar with the environment the protagonists are witnessing. It also has a positive message. Yes, it's a bumper sticker campaign to conserve whales, but how many Hollywood blockbusters care about endangered species? It links preserving whales with saving Earth, which is a wonderful sentiment. It also serves to bring the crew together and establishes the stakes that could lead to the crew's reinstatement following the theft and destruction of the Enterprise.
The key to saving the future. Spock, you're talking about the end of every life on Earth.
It's a palate cleanser as well as a radical move for the franchise. Number 1. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Is it the most obvious option? Yes, but it's also the correct decision. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan isn't just another fantastic Star Trek film. It's everything a summer blockbuster should be, while yet maintaining loyal to what makes Star Trek exceptional, particularly the classic Enterprise cast. It's a film with strong philosophical resonance, significant emotional stakes, and a satisfying experience for longtime Star Trek fans. Making Khan the enemy was a stroke of brilliance. Not because he's Kirk's lifelong foe, Khan only appears in the episode Spacey, but because he represents the misdeeds of the past. Khan is a nasty person, but he's not the only one who thinks Kirk abandoned Khan's people on a planet and never cared to check on them. It's crucial to check in on what Kirk did wrong as a young man, whether it was stranding Khan on Ceti Alpha 5 or refusing to heed the lesson of the Kobayashi Maru. In a film about a man grappling with aging, Kirk is forced through a crucible of his past mistakes in Wrath of Khan, and he must pay the price. The film also achieves its dramatic conclusion after a spectacular spacefight that would never happen today because it's too slow. It's essentially a naval battle in space, as TOS would occasionally do. "I have been and will always be your friend" is a heartbreaking sentence because you can sense the history behind it. Spock's Vulcan side isn't betrayed, and his human aspect isn't overemphasized. Kirk loses his dearest buddy in a poignant, honest moment where he's finally faced with a no-win position. It's a scene that only Star Trek could pull off, and it propels Wrath of Khan above and beyond most blockbusters. So that's it for the top 5 Star Trek movies. I'll see you on the channel next time. Until then, it's goodbye or live long and prosper.